And we are live. Hello, everyone. Everyone's that's there already. Thank you very much for joining us for another session in this webinar. If you've been here before, let's see if you can find your way to the chat and let us know. Hi, it's nice to see you again. If this is your first time, also, I'm very curious to see if you can find your way to the chat. Let us know that it's your first time participating in this webinar series. So hi again, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is going to be a super insightful session on how to dominate search in 2025 with combining smart SEO and PPC strategies. My name is Sam Tielemans, and I'm excited to be hosting this session in collaboration with eComOne agency from Lincoln. Today, we are diving into the real tactics behind a campaign that boosted search visibility by 25% in just 3 months' time, with 40,000 SKUs, multiple channels like Google, Meta, and Microsoft Ads, and a lot of clever strategy behind the scenes. Whether you're running an agency, managing e-commerce ads, or you're just looking to sharpen your game, this is the one for you. And we've got Alex Stephens here, who led the campaign. She will share with us today all the juicy insights, wins, lessons, and maybe a few things that they definitely do different next time. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout the session. I will be here trying to ask questions for Alex that can support her story. I've read through the case. She will be the presenter and we'll address all the questions you've asked and put in the chat at the end. Also, if you have to leave before the end of this webinar, don't worry. The webinar will be recorded, so you will also receive access to that recordings afterwards. Now, I think we're ready to go. Let's jump in. Please, Alex, would you be so kind as to start off with introducing yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Stephens. So I'm Head of Performance here at eComOne. We're a digital agency offering SEO, PPC, CVO, meta ads, and email marketing. So I've been working in e-commerce for the last 7 years. I predominantly focus on the paid advertising side of the business. I have been working in SEO and PPC now for the last sort of 7 years. So I've got a vast level of knowledge across these two areas. So I'll jump straight in with the deck.
Yeah, maybe before you head over there, obviously this has been a great win, a great case that you've presented. It's a case where you managed to boost search visibility by 25% in just 3 months. Yeah, what are the key drivers behind that growth?
Yeah, cool. So I'm going to jump straight in just so I can. Here we go. Cool.
That's all clear for us.
Yes, you can see that. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So yeah, this is all tailored towards mastering search domination. So focused around the SEO and PPC side of the business. So just to start with then, just introducing the client that we worked with. So they were specifically Rimmer Brothers, so focusing on classic car parts. They're based in Lincolnshire, here where we're based, and they ship across the worldwide. So they ship internationally. So we had a real, real challenge in terms of getting their products across all areas. So one of the challenges specifically were they were seeing quite undesirable results across SEO. So we sort of looked at what they were doing currently, and it was very sort of DIY effort, so not really sure what they were doing there. So we sort of kept them ahead of the competition, looking at bridging knowledge gaps, helping them adapt to any search engine algorithm updates. Because as you know, a lot of you'll know, it's really hard to keep up to date with those algorithm updates. So what we started with on the SEO side was a real strong SEO strategy. So focusing on a site quality audit. So this is really important to make sure you look at those technical fixes, looking for performance issues, any UX, crawlability, and site performance. So we actually adopted something which we like to call our Catalyst framework. So this is really boosting the content across your category pages. So we really revamped this, looking at the structure, really strong keyword-rich content, internal linking, bespoke FAQs, so focusing on what queries users are searching for. This really followed best practices for SEO as well. So we were looking at adding sort of blog links, any useful guides added in there, looking at real strong keywords that they wanted to focus on and rank for. So as you can see on this example, TR6 parts is a really, they sell like, they sell classic car parts, so Triumph being one of their biggest brands, and TR6 parts being a really strong model that they stock. So with that example here, you can see, organic listing number one, and they've also got a strong presence across Google Shopping as well, amongst some eBay listings and other brands as well. So the results were 21% increase in organic revenue on Catalyst pages. We also saw 15 or more keywords move for each category to page one of Google. So that wasn't just 15 keywords across all of the category pages. That was 15 keywords across each category pages. So really important pages that what they were wanting to rank for. Just starting then with the PPC tactics, really over the last 3 months, and recommendations that we'd really recommend getting ahead of for 2025. So number one is really optimizing those Google Shopping product titles. So make sure you are optimizing those to stand above competitors. So something which we did with Rimmer Brothers, really mastering those titles, ensuring, for example, if they're suitable for a multiple car type, adding in they're suitable for Triumph MG, that kind of thing, really, adding in those attributes where they're specific to the car type. As well as that, making sure any key attributes that people are searching for are in there as well. Obviously, sort of self-explanatory, but what the product actually is, the color, the dimensions, and that kind of thing, and really going above and beyond what your competitors are doing. Something which we started on the account was actually eliminating wasted spend as well, and making sure you are focusing on those best sellers. If you're looking where to start, if you're not, you're new to Google Ads, that kind of thing, focusing on the best sellers is a really good place to start. And once you've mastered that strategy on the account, you can then look at where your lower performers are as well, putting them into their own standalone campaign, that kind of thing. The third one here is creating feeds per region. So as I mentioned earlier, if you do internationally, making sure you have specific feeds so you're able to add those relevant shipping rates in there. And so in Google search results, on those shopping results, they are showing specifically with the relevant shipping rates. Obviously things like that help with click-through rates, performance and actual conversions overall. Another thing is that can be quite overlooked, and some clients can be more stricter on sticking with their product pricing, but something here is actually reviewing your product pricing really regularly. So often, in shopping results, that is one thing that everyone looks at, is the price. So if you can alter your price based on, if your profit margins allow, if you can adjust your pricing to meet competitors. In one scenario, we did reduce our price by only about £3 or £4 on one of our clients we work with, and we started to see really strong results coming through from just one product being altered, by the price being altered. One thing that Producthero offers is a price benchmarking tool, which we've used quite a lot with our clients. So you can kind of see how competitor prices are stacking up against competitors, essentially. So that's a really powerful tool to be able to get that data. Obviously, you can do, sometimes it's great to see it on the face value of how you actually search for it in results to see the pricing, but that price benchmarking tool is really good too. As I mentioned, something where you start with, starting with the best sellers, but then as you're further along the lines of your strategy, actually segmenting your low products into standalone campaigns allows Google's algorithm and learning on the account to actually more prioritize them more, and you can sort of set a higher ROAS target for those as well and allow them to perform better. Often those can get lost in a big campaign with bestsellers, for example. So actually segmenting them out is a really powerful strategy. And then finally, sort of the theme of this whole webinar is sort of making sure your PPC and SEO strategies are aligned. So that's the real key sort of driving point from this, and I'll touch on this further throughout the webinar, but that is something which is key in terms of making sure your PPC and SEO teams are really aligned and speaking regularly to make sure you are all going towards the same goal.
I love this, Alex. I very much recognize this coming from our clients as well. I'd even say that these practices here, they should be like a standard playbook for all of the clients, like all of the advertisers. It's so relevant for everyone at the same time. I'm curious to see how you even started with segmenting products and review product pricing even before you were with Producthero. Obviously, we offer solutions for those, but I'm glad to see that you did those prior, because for some that might not know, you only recently switched over Rimmer Bros to Producthero as a CSS provider. So I also love to learn from you guys what kind of impact that had on your shopping performance, for instance, and what others in this audience should consider before making that switch to Producthero or another CSS partner.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been on Producthero with Rimmer Brothers for almost a month now, and actually from day one of implementing the Producthero CSS platform, we did see a notable uplift in the clicks and impressions after making the switch. Because some of you may or may not know, you are essentially getting more for your money with a lower CPC from Producthero CSS. So that was a really, we saw that, which was really great to see. So if you are sort of thinking about switching and unsure, something to assure you is that it is super simple and there's actually no downtime at all with your feed. So it's really beneficial, and there's no concerns in terms of switching over, and it's a really smooth transition there.
And that wasn't rehearsed, guys. All right. Okay. I'm curious to see how you keep SEO and PPC teams aligned. Any tools, rituals, communication hacks that really help?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that we've recently been using is Ahrefs. Well, we've been using Ahrefs for a long time for our SEO strategies. But in terms of aligning PPC and SEO, it does give you really good useful bits of information for both channels. So predominantly being an SEO focused tool, there are capabilities within this platform that enable you to see things like keywords your competitors are bidding on. So it's a really competitive tool to be able to see that. Of course, you can see the general things in terms of, which pages are getting the highest traffic for organics, then, implement that and push those pages, for example, across your Google Ads campaigns. But that is just one of the overlooked bits of the platform that some people don't actually use in terms of being able to see what keywords your competitors are bidding on, and also keywords which they've stopped bidding on. So maybe you can jump in there and jump on that bandwagon in terms of getting that traffic. And then secondly, the SEO and PPC account managers having regular catch-up meetings. I know it seems kind of obvious, but sometimes it can get overlooked. So ensuring we are aligned on strategies, keeping track of client goals. Something as well, thirdly, is pushing blog article content from an SEO standpoint. Whenever new content goes out, actually pushing this across Google Ads as site link extensions. As a result, this is going to increase the traffic, push that positive signal to Google. And so anything to do with blog article content, new landing pages, really pushing that to other channels. So you've probably heard of people recommending pushing it to social media channels to boost that traffic, but also getting that across to your Google Ads campaigns as well will really help to boost that overall traffic.
All right. Yeah, I was curious because I was expecting another slide to come there. There it is. All right.
Yeah. So just jumping ahead then, looking at the SEO side of things, so maximising visibility. sort of, as I've gone through on the PPC side, very specific SEO tactics for 2025. So something which I mentioned when I ran through the Rimmer Bros case study was optimizing those category pages. And we often see client websites where they've got, when they come on board with us, they've got a very small snippet of, a paragraph of text. But it's really important to make sure you link to related categories on the page, add those FAQs in there, what questions people are searching for on the web. As well as that, including any long form content in there, making sure that long form content has strong backlinks as well. As well as that, having a sort of, a blog section of related articles that we found really powerful in boosting category pages. As I mentioned on the first point, backlinks. So it's really important that you secure valuable backlinks to your category pages. Not only, we often see it where people, clients have backlinks to just their homepage. So making sure you've got backlinks to your category pages, those category pages where you want to see that growth will really be powerful. As I mentioned earlier, the site quality audit, that's really important. Don't just complete it at the very start, complete that over, every 6 months, because algorithm updates can come through. There might be things that break on a website. You really need to be focused on those technical fixes because they can often get overlooked. And that really needs to be focused upon, really twice a year from our perspective. And then focusing on EEAT, and this might be something that some of you have heard of before, but it's essentially ensuring that your content is focused on this framework. So it's all about experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness, and making sure your blog content is really showing that you're the thought leader in your industry. So things like author bios are really great to have against all of your blog articles, making sure you are showing your industry experience, because that's another positive signal to Google to show that you are the person that knows the most about the industry. Things like building out the About Us page as well is really good to follow this framework. And then, as I mentioned on the FAQ section, so really focusing on long tail question based keywords. This is really important as we, Google search engines getting cleverer to AI. So it's really important that you're looking at human-based long-tail questions. So making sure it's very driven as if a human's written it rather than AI, because, as I mentioned, Google is getting cleverer to this with the search engines. So it's important that your content is really tailored to this. So this is just an example of the impact of implementing our Catalyst framework on Rimmer Bros website. So you can see one of the biggest the drivers is obviously the organic revenue. So seeing that uptick of revenue over that period and an increase in sessions just on the Catalyst pages that we optimize. So those real key category pages for the one, those car models, those car types, those are really optimized, and it has resulted in an increase in sessions and that really positive uptick in organic revenue. So it was a really powerful strategy in terms of building all of those out. And because they have such a vast amount of SKUs on their website and various categories, it was quite a big task to complete all of this, but it really paid off in the end.
Great stuff. I love it. I was curious already about it. And then another hot topic that I wanted to throw in here was that product title optimizations. It's obviously a thing that, particularly for shopping ads, is very important, but also for SEO. Would there be any other underrated tactics maybe that you feel help products perform better in both Google Ads as SEO?
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing that can get quite overlooked is optimizing your product descriptions. So this isn't which we see on quite a lot of the clients that come on board with us, particularly if they get their products from suppliers. We often see their supplier product descriptions just popped into the product descriptions that the suppliers give them just popped into their product description section on their own website and then actually reused again if they list on Amazon or eBay, for example. So we really recommend, if you're optimizing your product titles to your own website, but then not giving them to eBay or Amazon, because you've worked really hard to optimize your own product descriptions. So don't be giving them to your, to another third party like Amazon or eBay. So make them really unique to your own website. Don't just copy and paste the specifications that your suppliers give you. As well as this, making sure your products are really built out with long form blogs and guides as well. So those product descriptions, if where relevant, you've got guides on how to use the product. If any articles are really going to help people find out more about the product. Because something which was introduced sort of at the end of last year was Google's putting much more priority towards products. So actually ranking products within search results. So something which we've recently adopted is actually building out our Catalyst framework, which I mentioned, on our product descriptions. So that's been really powerful, even adding FAQs there and helping those products specifically rank in search results. Because as a lot of you'll know, is that, if people land on your product specifically, they've got higher search intent to actually then go and purchase that specific product. So really optimizing those is something which we really would recommend.
All right. Okay, Alex, we're right now at 25 minutes in. I did have some more questions aligned, but since there's also a couple in the chat, I'd like to give those some attention first. So everyone here, we're going to go through the Q&A now. I know this is a 30-minute webinar, but we can go a bit over time. And if you can stay with us here, we will continue the recordings to send those over. So, all right, I'm just scrolling through the chat right now. I've got an interesting question from Elias, who's no longer here, but maybe someone else is interested. He or she asked, what is the best way to optimize the titles and track different shopping titles' performance?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So specifically looking at the best way to optimize product titles. So something which I would recommend doing is you don't necessarily have to use Producthero. They do have their own product title optimization tool within the platform, and it does allow you to see sort of recommended character length. Is it's got a score, is it's good, bad, or needs to improvements, that kind of thing. It does give you that indication as well. And there is other tools that you can use as well. So we, as an agency, use a middleware data feed software called Data Feed Watch, and you can optimize your product title specifically within that platform without the need for any web development support, and you can make them specific to your Google Shopping product titles rather than changing any product titles on the website. So that's something which we use. And I think just really tracking when you've made that change and then measuring the impact over sort of a 2-week period. Has that product increased in click-through rate? Are you getting more conversions as a result of that change? So really, monitor the changes and really monitor the results there.
Thanks for that. If you don't have access, for instance, to Data Feed Watch or the way Alex just described, there's also obviously the possibility, if you're with Producthero, to optimize product titles with our free title optimization tool, or in our pro package, the Products AI solution that even does the work for you. All right, then there was the question from Kenny. Are you ready, Alex?
Yes, yep.
All right. When you altered the price, were the products pushed more to the front of shopping or only generated more clicks due to the lower price?
So in terms of the price, so this wasn't the specific driver in actually generating the more results. It's just when you see, for example, a product that's not performing so well and actually optimizing and reducing that price to meet, for example, competitors being lower. So I wouldn't necessarily just go ahead and reduce the price and think that's going to work. You have to kind of review it against competitors, and if they're more competitive on price, then reduce the price. So really analyze the results, and I wouldn't recommend just going ahead and doing it without looking at what competitors are doing, because it might not be the right strategy to increase performance. I definitely focus on going down optimizing the images, optimizing the product titles first, and then looking at the product price as well. So there's different factors to look at on that side of things.
Great. And what I like to add here, Kenny, is that it does have its effect on your position. Most of it is, it's interesting to have it as a sort of a predictive factor. So if you know that there's other competitors out there priced lower than you are, it's likely that the conversions are going to go to those sellers rather than yours. So you might still get a lot of clicks on your product, increasing your ad spam, but don't convert. It's likely that there's someone out there higher with a lower price. So it has its effect, yes, on your rankings, not just that, but yeah, as Alex said, it is part of it, but also the product title is obviously important for your placings as well as your bids. All right, another interesting one here from Tom. He's asking, or he's stating, I find a lot of the time, much of this stuff is based on products which require some research. For example, linking to FAQs, etc. For me, I'm retailing band t-shirts. There's no research a person needs to do. So what suggestions do you have where there's no educating aspect to the customer journey?
Okay, that is really interesting. I see where you're coming from with that. But in terms of different tools you can use, things like SEMrush and Ahrefs can actually give you some content and FAQ suggestions. So, say for example, if you broadly just put in a specific band T-shirt that you're promoting, SEMrush will actually give you question suggestions. So actually what has search volume. So it's a really powerful tool, although you might not think there's any FAQs to search for that people might be searching for. Third-party tools actually give you some real good suggestions that you may not have thought of, and just more looking, specifically at search queries, questions, that kind of thing. But if you're really, if there's nothing that comes back in terms of doing the research, rather than FAQs, I'd really focus on making sure you've got that keyword-rich content. Is there any blog articles that you can link to that are relevant to the product you're selling as well? It's going to be really powerful in boosting the product performance there.
All right. Thanks again, Alex. I got nothing to add to that. And then two more questions that we're going to go through. First one will be Mayad. Would you suggest PPC or PMax for better control? And I'm kind of assuming here that he's referring to standard shopping or performance max.
Yes, that's what I would take from it as well, Sam. So that's actually a really interesting question, and it's actually quite topical at the moment because some of you may or may not have heard, sort of at the end of Q4 last year, Google did introduce that they were no longer prioritizing PMax over standard shopping, and it's whichever of the campaigns it has the highest ad rank, the highest bid. So something which we've been testing out quite a lot on our client accounts is actually running a standard shopping campaign alongside your PMax campaigns. We're actually seeing some really strong results there. So I would recommend trialing that and running them side by side. In terms of budget, doing it quite incrementally, not just throwing a load of budget at it and hoping for the best, making sure every change you make is incremental. And that's something that we have been, as I say, doing a lot of, and it's proving to be really successful, actually.
All right, great, thanks. Then the question that I was gonna do next, I'll take that one on. It's from Eves. It's pretty straightforward question. What is the most relevant key factors to get listed in the top 5 in Google Shopping results for all search queries? Well, if I think it's it's not that that's straightforward. We have a shopping advertising framework that basically shows you what the 3 main pillars are for improving your overall performance. There's no such thing as doing the one thing that will get you in top 5 positions everywhere, other than maybe a massive budget. But you also need to make sure that your product information is relevant. So your feed hygienes are in place. You have obviously those titles, but also the description, as Alex already mentioned, the product types, Google categories. The more, the better. And then obviously there comes in the competition where you're competing with other advertisers, not just on the bids, but also on pricing, on product reviews that you might have, on shipping. There's so many elements impacting where your products will be placed. So yeah, I suggest you to have a look at that shopping advertising framework. And if you want to discuss more on that, feel free to reach out to hello@producthero.com, and we'll make sure that all your questions are covered. If it's okay for you, Alex, we're going to do 2 more questions that popped up in the
Yeah,
chat.
of course. Yes,
Cool.
of course.
Next one is from Laura. All right, Laura shared that this is about Producthero. For the product's AI optimization tool, I'd like to standardize product titles for my marketplace. But all vendors use different elements, attributes in their product pages. Do you also use image information to enrich titles? How to create a prompt that adapts to different problems? All right. So if this is related to our product AI tool, yes, that does use your image for optimizations of your product titles and attributes. I know that vendors use different elements for their product feed. That's why we also built templates based on the kind of products you're selling, such as hard goods, electronics, fashion, books, and so on. And there is an option for you to add a customized prompt if you have specific branded guidelines that you wanted to incorporate. All right, and the next one, it's definitely for you, Alex. That question is coming from Oliver. How do you analyze the results after improving the product title, description, and other product attributes in the shopping feed for Google Ads and for SEO? So, how to analyze the results? All right, it seems that we have a slight connection issue here. Am I still live? Can somebody in the chat let me know if it's not on my end, the connection issue, if it's just all right? Okay, thanks, Kenny. Well, Alex had some issues on her end, so let me try and cover some of the other questions. Oliver, I hope Alex will be back to cover yours. If you all right. Next question is from Liane. Is it worth trialing Performance Max and Standard Shopping if you're working with a low budget, less than 2K, or is it better to focus on one? According to our academy, because we've built an academy also, if you want to start with shopping ads, I'd say Performance Max is great. It does things that we can manage with standard shopping ads, but then obviously you want to find out what would be the ideal target to go after. So we suggest that you start off with maximizing conversion value, and once you found the sweet spot to what ROAS Performance Max can take out of it for you, you can continue to push your campaigns towards that target ROAS. I hope that helps. All right. Okay, guys. Since Alex is no longer here, and we went through most of the questions, I like to end it here. Thank you very much all for participating in this webinar again. Please don't forget, if you want to stay ahead in 2025, it's all about making your channels work together and not in silos. So combine those SEO and PPC teams, cut wasted spend. And if you took away that from this webinar, I think the session did its job. If you want to rewatch this or share the session, we will share the recording soon. And if there's some more questions that you wanted to address, please reach out to hello@producthero.com. That is hello@producthero.com, because we're always up for a nerdy PPC or SEO chat. Until the next time, goodbye, take care, and go take over those search results. Oh, Alex, I just finished off the webinar. Thanks to you as well for sharing those insights. Your mic is muted. If you want to say thanks to the audience, please go ahead.
Happened there, it completely cut off. Sorry about that, everyone.
Don't you worry about it. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining, everyone. See
Bye
you
bye.
later. Bye. Bye.